Hi, hello, good afternoon, and happy new month to everyone. Welcome back to English language class. Welcome, welcome. It's good to have you all again. All right, so like I mentioned, we are going into another topic. We're going into a new topic today. We've just concluded on punctuation and spelling. So today we are starting a new topic on um, grammatical patterns in use. All right. And when we are talking about grammar, it means we are generally talking about English language that we are learning. All right. So every language has its own grammar. Every language has its grammar. All right. Just like the Igbo language has its grammar, the Yoruba language has its grammar, the Hausa language has its own grammar. There is a way you're expected to structure these languages, all right, for it to, or for you to call it that certain language, all right. Just as it is in Yoruba language, Igbo language, are various dialects, so it is in English language, all right. So we are talking about grammatical patterns in use, all right. So I'm going to be using the whiteboard so we can see everything I'll be doing today. All right. So we have grammatical pattern in use. All right. So um, this is English language. Yes, like I mentioned, we are going straight into grammatical patterns in use. Grammatical patterns in use. All right. So under grammatical patterns in use, we have various subtopics. All right. And those topics are what we're going to be looking at in this class and the other classes to follow. All right. So today we're going to be starting with subject verb agreement. Subject verb agreement. All right. So in one of our previous classes, we did something related to subject verb. So by now you should be familiar with um, what we mean by the subject verb. All right. Now the first thing we want to consider is what agreement means. All right, agreement. And in a simple way, the way we can simplify it, you know that when you mention agreement, the word agree comes in. Okay, the word agree comes in. So, what does it mean to agree? Now, agreement or to agree means things or certain things that match or go together correctly. Okay, things that match and go together correctly. Now, if some things are not agreeing, or if two things do not match, or they do not go together, you cannot say they agree. Okay? So for you to say something agree, or for you to say some people or some things are in agreement, it means those things, maybe two or more, are in alignment. They go together. It means it's not like one is going east, the other is going south. It means they are both facing the same direction. All right. So just like we can picture what agreement is in our daily lives, we also have agreement in English grammar. All right. So the first thing we are looking at, like I mentioned, is the subject verb agreement. Now that we know what agreement means, Looking at subject verb agreement, what do you think it means? It basically means that subject and verb in a sentence must go together. They must agree. All right? They must agree. Okay, so let me have some things on the board so that we can all see it. Okay, please, if you are with me, kindly drop a thumbs up so I know you can hear me clearly. All right, thank you. Okay, so subject verb, thank you. Subject verb agreement. All right, we start by asking what do we mean by agreement? And like I said, agreement means things that match or go together correctly. All right, so in grammar, the subject and the verb must agree. And what are they agreeing in? They are agreeing in number. Okay, so that means a singular subject has to take a singular verb, and the plural subject has to take a plural verb. That's what it means to agree. A singular subject takes a singular verb, while a plural subject takes a plural verb. Okay, a singular subject cannot go with a plural verb, and the plural subject cannot go with a singular verb. They have to agree. They have to agree. All right, and we're going to be looking at examples um, so we can understand better what we mean. All right, so we have rules is that we follow, okay, under subject verb agreement or under agreement for grammar generally. There are rules that we follow. And then the first basic rule is what I just mentioned, singular verb, all right? Singular subject, okay? Singular subject, singular verb, and plural subject, plural verb, okay? Singular subject, singular verb, plural subject, plural verb. Okay, so we are going to be looking at some things so that we get this correctly. There's some rules that we're going to be looking at under this agreement. Now, the first thing, like I mentioned, is the basic rule. Now we have singular subject equals to singular verb, all right, plural subject, then equals to plural verb. Now I'm going to give us an example. When we have the boy plays football, the boy plays football. Let me have that as an example so that we can see. We are looking at the basic rule now. The basic rule. Okay, I'm trying to have an example on the board. All right, so can we see this? Okay, so example one, it says the boy plays football. Now, the explanation here is that since boy is singular, we add s to the verb. Okay, we add s to the verb play. So that will mean plays. So the boy plays football. That's what I mean by the basic rule. Okay, we have a singular subject. So the singular subject is showing the singular verb, okay? Then the plural subject is showing the plural verb. So when you use or when you have to add s, because of course you would have seen cases where, or maybe when you get confused, you're like, okay, when should we use plays or when should we use play? Now you can see in this case, for example one, we have Other example one, we have point one, we have point two. We have the boy plays football. The boy plays football. So we have singular subject, all right? And then we have this verb which s must follow. When you have a singular subject, we add s to the verb. We add s to the verb. And then when you have a plural subject, the verb does not carry an s. Okay, so you have the boy plays, the boy plays, okay, the boys play. Okay, all right, so the boy plays, the boys play. Once the subject is singular, then you have to add an s to the verb. Once the subject is plural, there is no need for an s in the verb. All right, so another example that we can use is she likes ice cream. She likes ice cream. Now, she is singular because we are referring to just one person. So we need to add s to like to show that the subject is singular. So she likes ice cream. She singular, s to the verb likes. All right. Now, the other form of it is they like ice cream. They like ice cream. Now, they is plural, so we keep the like that. Like the verb like is going to remain in its base form. You are not adding s to it. Okay, so that's the first thing we are looking at. That's a basic rule. Once you have the subject as singular, then your verb must carry an s. Once your subject is plural, then your verb doesn't need to carry any s. All right, so we're looking at number two. Rule number two is that the pronoun I and you take the plural verb. Okay, they take the plural verb. Let's have an example. I'm going to wipe off the board now. Okay, all right, so like I mentioned, rule two is I and you take the plural verb. Okay, they don't take the singular verb, even if you're referring to one person. Even if you're referring to one person, because since we said singular, you know that singular is I. You can also be singular. You can use you to be singular. It could be for one person. You can also be used for more than one person. Okay, so but in this case, when you is used as singular for one person, or I, of course, which is also singular, they take the plural verb. Okay, they take the plural verb. They take the plural verb. Okay, so you have examples like you are my friend. You are my friend. Okay, so you here referring to a singular person. Now, I here is showing plurality. Okay, so this is a plural verb. You are my friend. It's going to be wrong to say you is, because is a singular form of are. So you can't say you is my friend. You say you are my friend. So this is wrong. And then in the case of I, you can say I is. You can't say I and is. You can't say I is hungry. You say, I am hungry. I am hungry. All right. So you don't use the singular verb is for I and you. That's the second rule. Okay. Then the third rule is that subject joined by the conjunction and take a plural verb. Subject joined by the conjunction and take a plural verb. I'm going to have that on the board. So I'll wipe this off so that we can see the next point clearly. Okay. All right. So it says subject joined by and take a plural verb. Now, John and Mary are best friends. John is a subject in the sentence. Mary is a subject in the sentence. Now, John and Mary means two people. Okay, it means more than one person. And then if it is more than one person, then you are using the verb are. Okay, you can't say because they mentioned their name separately, you're going to use is, just like you would say John is my best friend or Mary is my best friend. But because there is a conjunction and joining both subjects, John and Mary together. So if you're going to have that in the pronoun form, you know you're going to say they. So you say they are my best friends. Okay, but because you're not using pronoun, you're still using your noun, but the nouns have been joined by the conjunction and, so the verb is taking the plural form. So John and Mary are best friends. John and Mary are best friends. Okay, now we look at example 2. A book and a pen cost a lot of money. So instead of costs, just like I explained earlier, all right, instead of adding s to it, instead of adding s to your verb, we're not adding s to the verb in this case because we have the subject are in a plural form. We have two things involved now. So they cost. You will not say they costs because the subject is not singular. So you're not adding s to the verb costs. The subjects are plural, so there is no need for you to add s to the cost. So a book and a pen cost a lot of money. Okay, so just like the explanation says, since book and pen make two different things, we use cost instead of costs. All right. Then we look at the next thing. We're looking at the rule of or nor. I'm going to have that on the board as well. Or nor. I'm trying to get that on the board. If you're still with me, kindly drop a thumbs up so I know you're still with me. All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, so the rule or nor. Okay, or nor. Okay, we should remember either or, neither nor. All right, so that's the rule we're looking at now. So this is telling you when to use your or and your nor. Okay, so the verb matches the closest subject. When we're talking about verb, you could be talking about helping verb, modal verb, etc. All right, you could have verbs like is, You could have verb like the normal verb, action word, cook, etc. So it says the verb matches the closest subject. And remember, we said when the subject is singular, okay, your verb does not need to, your verb needs to carry an S. Okay, your verb carries an S. Okay, so you can say Tola cooks. Tola cooks. Now, Tola and James cook. Okay, so the subject here is plural. You are not adding S to your verb. The subject here is singular. You are adding S to your verb. The same way you can say they cook. She cooks. All right. So she here is singular. They here is plural. Because they is plural, you are not adding S to your cook. Because she is singular, you are not adding S. You are adding S rather to your cook. Now, this rule says the verb matches the closest subject. The verb matches the closest subject. Okay, so it means that if in a sentence like Tola and James cook, the closest subject to cook is James. Okay, the closest subject to cook is James, not Tola. Tola is not the closest subject to cook. So this rule is saying the verb matches the closest subject. Now let's move to the example. Either the teacher or the students. Now let's take it one after the other. Either the teacher. The teacher is what? The teacher is a singular subject. Now the student, teacher is singular subject. Student is plural subject, but they've been joined. Okay, either the teacher, okay, either the teacher. Remember that you use either with or and you use neither with nor. Okay, so this is applicable to both either or neither. So we have the teacher, which is a singular subject. We have the student, which is a plural subject. Now, the student as the closest, or the word student is the closest to the verb are. Okay, so you say students are, not student is. I hope you get that explanation. Please drop a thumbs up if you're following. Students, thank you. Student is. You don't say students. You don't say students is, because this is plural. Thank you. This is plural. Students are. Students are. Students is. The student here is plural, so you cannot say is. This is wrong. So the student here is plural, then the are here should be plural. And the students, we are using are because the student as a subject is the closest to the verb, not the teacher. So it means you are basically ignoring the teacher. Okay, so the other example that we can have is either the students or the teacher. Now the case is different. We have students first, we have teacher next. Now student is plural, teacher is singular. Since teacher is singular, are we going to use is or are? If you know, please drop in your chat box. Are we using is or are? Okay. Yes. Because teacher is singular, we are using is, not are. In the case of students, where they are plural, you use are. So the students are. Teacher is. So the verb, that's what this rule says. the verb, thank you, the verb basically matches the closest subject. Excuse me. All right, so we're moving to rule 5. All right, the rule 5 is very similar to what we just did. Okay, so it says there is versus there are. There is versus there are. Okay, so let's wipe this off. All right, the next rule. There is versus there are. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we have there is and there are. There is a cat on the roof. There is a cat on the roof. There is a cat on the roof. Now, we are using is as the singular part because we are referring to one noun. We are referring to one subject. Okay, so there is a cat. A cat means one. So because we are referring to one subject, we are using is. The one subject means it is singular. The one subject means a singular. So because we are using singular, you use the verb is. Okay, so as against there are many cats on the roof. There are many cats shows that there is more than one cat. And if you are using more than one, you cannot use is again. You are using are. All right. So the rule of there is versus there are is the fact that is used with a singular verb. So you use there is with a singular verb, where there are with, sorry, there is with a singular subject, then there are with a plural subject. Okay, so there is a bag on the table. There are two bags on the table. There are many bags on the table. There is a book with the teacher. There are many books with the teacher. So there is for singular subject and there are for plural subject. All right, that's for rule 5. Okay, then we move to rule 6. We move to rule 6, and rule 6 talks about words that are always singular, no matter how they appear. No matter how they appear. So the words are always singular. I'm going to have that on the board as well so you can see. Some words are always singular, no matter how they appear. So rule 6, I'm trying to have that on the board so we can see. Okay, so you say some words are always singular. When you see words like each, everyone, nobody, somebody, all right, these words are always singular. And if you've been looking at the trend of the singular and the plural plus verb in light of subject and verb, you know that when you have the singular, you're using something, you're using a verb that has to agree with it. Okay, so singular, all right, we have an example like everyone. Everyone means singular. So if we have everyone as singular, then it means the verb that follow has to carry an S. So everyone wants, not everyone wants. Okay, not everyone wants without S. because everyone now is singular. The rule, remember the rule says some words are always singular. So when you see words like each person, so you have examples like each person is expected to submit his assignment. Okay, everyone is, not everyone are. Everyone is expected to eat his breakfast. Okay, so each student has a book, not each student have, because have is the plural form of has. So each student in the singular form is carrying has, not have, because you're not dealing with multiple people. So where you find each, you find everyone, you find nobody, you find somebody. You can't say somebody are around. You say somebody is around. You can't say nobody are around. You say nobody is around. You can't say everyone are around. You say everyone is around. So wherever you see this word, each person is expected to. Everyone is. Nobody is, not are. So sometimes they look like, this thing looks plural. They are not plural. It is singular. Words like this refer to just one person. So when you see it in your examination or you see it in your exam questions and you find options like each person dash, and then you find options like is, are, you already know that each person is referring to one person. Everyone is referring to a singular person. Nobody is referring to singular. Somebody referring to singular. So when you find the singular, you know that the verb that should follow should match it. You're not using the verb that will contradict it. So each person is, each person has, not have. Each person wants with S, not without S. That's what this rule basically means. All right. Then we look at rule number 7, the last rule for today before we take a question and then we close for the day. All right. So I'm wiping this off so that we can have the last rule. Okay. We're talking about collective noun in this case. All right. So this rule is talking about collective nouns. And when you talk about collective nouns, we're talking about group. Okay. Remember our types of nouns. So collective noun is a kind of noun. And when you're talking about collective, like I mentioned, you're talking about group. So a group of things, a group of people, a group of animal. Okay. We know what they are called. Okay, when you talk about choir, choir refers to a group of singers. So it means there are actually many people in that group. That's why we call them collective. So when you say team, team is not referring to one person, but it's referring to a group of people doing something. When you say family, family is not referring to one person, family is referring to a group of father, mother, and children. When you talk about class, class is not referring to one person, it's referring to a group of people. Okay, so you have collective nouns like that. You have bunch, you have herd, you have school. All of these are called collective nouns. So when you hear the word collective nouns, you are talking about a group of people or a group of something. Now, this rule, like I said, is talking about collective nouns. So, collective nouns can either be singular or plural depending on the way they are used. Depending on the way they are used. Now, when you say the team is ready to play, when you are thinking of the team as one entity, you are thinking of them as a group. Okay, it's different from the team members. Now you have, it means you have dismantled them, okay, from the team. When you talk about the team, you're not mentioning one person per se. You're not saying that, okay, this is one person in the team, this is one person in the team. You're talking about a team as a whole. When you talk about the school, you talk about the school as a whole. You talk about family, you're not referring to only the father, you're not referring to only the mother. You're talking about everybody. But once you point them out, the team members, the staff members, the family members, that means they are no longer singular. So you use are as their own verb. So the team members are arguing amongst themselves. It's different from the team is ready to play. The family is around. The class is making a hell of a noise. Okay? So when you say the family members, the next thing that should follow it is not is. The family members are around. The family members are eating. The family is eating. So collective nouns can function as a singular when you see them as a group. But once you dismantle them from being a group, then you use the plural. So is used when they are in the singular form, when you see them as a group, and are used when you dismantle them, when you see them as individuals. So that's what this rule basically says. Okay, so for collective nouns, whatever collective nouns you have, we have different kinds. I just mentioned three here on the board: team, family, class, school, herd, bunch of keys, bunch of bananas, etc, etc. So is and are. You use is when you still see them as a group, when the sentence shows that they are in a group. But once the sentence is showing that this is no longer a group, then you're not using is, or you're not using any of the singular verb along with them. Okay, so this is what we mean basically by subject verb agreement. We've just looked at the rules, grammatical rules on subject verb agreement, and we have talked about 7 rules. We talked about the singular subject, singular verb rule, plural subject, plural verb rule. That's the basic rule. Then we talk about I and you taking plural verb instead of the normal singular, because I, you can be used as singular. So they're taking a plural verb. You say you are, you don't say you is. Okay. Then we looked at rule 3, that's subject joined by and. Okay. Subject joined by and. Take the plural verb. Okay. Then we looked at the rule talking about or and nor. So the verb matching the closest subject. Then we have the 5th rule on there is versus there are, when to use there is and when to use there are. Then we have the rule on words that are always singular, words like each, like everybody, like everyone, like nobody, like somebody, etc. Then the last rule, the rule on collective nouns. So collective nouns can be seen as singular or plural depending on how they are used in a sentence. All right, so we have a past question here, and I would like that everyone attends to it. Or I'm going to drop it on the board. Just drop what you think the answer is in the chat box, and let's see how we can answer it. Okay, this question is from 2019 UTME, and like I always say, you can find your these questions on the CBT session on the app. So you can always attend to it and see what you can do. All right. The question says either Ubuntu or you dash to go. Okay, so we have the option A, which is was. We have option B, which is are. We have option C, which is has. We have option D, which is. Okay, now can we see anyone who can attempt this? If you know the answer, drop it in the chat box. Okay, all right, I can see answers coming in. I'm going to give you the answer and I'm going to give you why that is the answer. Okay. Okay. All right. So because of our time, yeah, I see your options. You tried, and I know why. Yes, I can see why you chose some of these answers. Now, like I've been saying from the previous classes, when you meet with examinations, okay, when you have your questions, basically your answers will confuse you. You will see options that are closely related, and then you'll be confused on which one is the most appropriate. I was talking about the most appropriate answer yesterday. Sometimes it doesn't mean that some answers are incorrect, but it means that one of the answer is the most appropriate of all the answers. Okay, so it doesn't mean the answer is wrong, but you are going to be marked wrong if you're not choosing the most appropriate, because the question would say choose the most appropriate for, or choose the nearest in meaning for. It doesn't mean that there are other options that could not fit in. It just means that there is one option that is the most appropriate. Okay, so now let's read the sentence. It says either Buntu or you dash to go. Now, either Buntu or you, option A, was to go. Okay, was to go. When you say was to go, was, you use was to refer to singular. Okay, so you can say she was, he was. Now remember the rule where we said you. Okay, you is following a plural verb. Remember that rule, a plural verb. Now this verb was is singular. You use was for singular, so it means it's not part of our option. Now also remember the rule on or no. So it means we are applying two rules here. The rule of you, whatever follows a you, we already know that what would follow it is a plural. Okay, is a plural. So we have to rule out all singular options. So was is used for singular subject, is used for singular subject. Okay, you can't say you is. Okay, you can't say you is. As is also used for singular subject. You can't say, okay, can you see that? Used for singular. You can't say you asked to go. You can only say you have to go. Remember that rule for either, nor, either or, neither nor, that says the verb that you choose is related to the closest subject. The closest subject to you is you, not Buntu. Okay, so since the closest subject you have is you, it means the verb that should go with it should agree with you. Do you get that? So you are saying you are to go. You can't say you was to go. You can't say you asked to go. You can't say you is to go. So you say you are to go. So it means B is our option. Can you see that? Did you see how I picked it? I used two rules to solve this question. Two rules that we thought about today. So either Buntu or you are to go. Can we see that? So are to go. You are to go. All right. So for those of you that chose something else, I hope you can see where this is the most appropriate. If you were to apply some other rules, you won't be wrong. But for these rules, these grammatical rules, the most appropriate is option B. So either Buntu or you are to go. All right, so just to test your knowledge again, I plead with you, go to the CBT session on the app and see questions like these that you can answer. Okay, and then if you miss any part of the class, kindly go to the YouTube channel at A1 Tutor and see what part you missed. And you can also go there for a kind of revision. I'll see you in the next class. Bye bye.